Bonjour tout le monde. Hi everyone. This is Madame Murphy with Fun Facile French. And in this series of videos, I want to address the common misconceptions of the AP exam and how we can work against them. So this series of videos are for my friends preparing the AP French Language and Culture exam. If you're not familiar with the format of the exam, go back and watch my video addressing the format, as that's going to come up in this video. So what really breaks my heart is when my students come to me in the month of April, a month before the exam, and they've got all these ideas in their head about how they're not going to be successful on the exam. And the number one misconception they have is that they will not be successful because they are not native speakers. So misconception number one, you do not need to be a native speaker to earn not just a passing score of 3, but even a 4 or a 5 on the exam. I think folks assume that a native speaker, of course, they will have the most perfect pronunciation, the most perfect grammar. And while this may or may not be the case, the reality is that the exam does not require you to show up in the month of May with that perfect pronunciation and with that perfect grammar. Let's take a look at the scoring guidelines that I use as an individual who actually sits and scores your exam in the month of June. For a passing score of 3, what the College Board is asking you to do is to maintain the conversation with a series of responses that is somewhat appropriate within the context of what they're asking you to do. You only need to say things that are somewhat appropriate for a passing score. For a 5, you need to have a series of responses coming out of your mouth that are generally appropriate. And for a 5, the highest score, those series of responses need to be clearly appropriate. This is attainable by someone who is not a native speaker. The level of how appropriate your responses are depends on your listening skills, how well did you understand the question you were being asked, and also the vocabulary you have at your disposal. Go back and watch my videos about how to improve your listening skills, how to improve your vocabulary. Those are going to be places that are time well spent rather than worrying about not being a native speaker. Notice that grammar is only the 5th bullet point down on our rubric that we use as scores. So while grammar is important and pronunciation are certainly important, as long as you are maintaining that series of responses at a level that is generally or somewhat appropriate, you're doing pretty darn well. So I really want my students to have confidence coming into this exam and not have thoughts in their head about how they're already at a disadvantage. Now, it breaks my little heart to say this, but what does sometimes happen is that native speakers, in fact, will not score the 4s and the 5s. And the reason for this is because of that confidence piece. Native speakers, naturally, they are able to maintain a conversation. However, if they don't understand the format of the exam, that conversation may not actually fit in with the somewhat appropriate, generally appropriate, and clearly appropriate requirements of the rubric. So again, if you are a native speaker, do please go back and watch my video on the exam format. It's really, really heartbreaking when a student has a beautiful native accent and comes to the exam, but does not earn a passing score because they have not taken a look at what's required of them. So I hope you find this video helpful. As always, all these videos are destined to maximize your time and your efficiency. I don't want to waste my students' time as they prepare for not only this AP exam, but maybe 4 or 5 other exams. And I do recommend you seek out the services of a tutor to make sure that you're always using the exam and that you're using French rather, and you're using your time really efficiently. So consider working with us at Fun Facile French as you prepare the AP French Language and Culture exam. Bonne continuation et au revoir.